Are we up and running? I think we're up and running. It's a brilliant time for a fly to go right past my camera as well. Fantastic start. Um, yeah, I'm sort of new to this live streaming thing. Hello, how are we all doing? Thanks, Martin Cook, for telling me my brevity is admirable and there's always a wonderful trace of humour in my reportage. That's a new one. That is a combination of words I have not seen put together ever, but thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, hi. I figured I would just do a little bit of a stream because we've got a big one planned on Friday. It's going to be all of the transfer news from the day as it comes in, Leeds United and other stuff. But I figured I'd do a bit of a practice one just to get a little bit of momentum going into it. And this one's going to specifically target various things that are going on at Leeds United at the moment. Now, I'm going to start off with a quick dive into the news around what has been happening with Nadiem Amiri. It's not the best of news for Leeds. I did a video on this last night just to quickly discuss what the situation is, but things have evolved ever since then. The story at the time, I'm just going to pop the comments up, so if anyone has anything to say, just ping it in there and I will discuss it. The story at the time last night was that Amiri was in Leeds, talks had broken down, but there might have been some chance of them coming back. Doesn't look like that's the case anymore. Phil Hay has been writing an article, I think it was either an article or a tweet, in which he's mentioned that Amiri has now left Leeds, gone back to Germany, and I think it's fair to say that that one might be dead in the water. Now, it's important to note that a lot of the information I will be discussing here has come from various bits of reporting, for example, The Athletic as a main one. That's the wrong view. That's the right view. I'm just going to get rid of the Amiri banner. Yeah, discussing exactly what needs to happen in the rest of the transfer window. We will get to this guy a little bit later. But further down, he mentions that we were committing £5 million to Amiri and potentially £10 million to Paintsil, which is another one that we will get into. Again, we've seen the impact that well-spent money can have in this division, because Joel Pirro has already just shown up and made a massive difference. It's huge. But turning to my stupid face, Amiri has left the country again. Probably not going to. I don't know if you can see that flight. It's really weird. Probably not going to happen unless we can somehow persuade him to get on a private jet back again, and then have that conversation again. But it feels like if he is to move, it's not going to be to Leeds United. It's not the best. Again, if anyone has any questions about any of these stories, just ping them in the comments. I will be sure to just talk about how they're going, to be honest. Also going to have a very quick check of my settings because I need to make sure the mic is working. Cool. If anything isn't working, just let me know. It's a first stream. Things are going to go wrong. I want to get them right. Joseph Paintsil is another fairly big story that's going on at the moment. And that's another one that isn't necessarily going well. The story, as I've heard it, is that Leeds United put in a bid to, I think it's Genk. I'm just going to quickly double check. Genk, yes, in the Belgian league. Paintsil has been very good for them. He's got more than 10 goals and assists last season. He's a very sort of creative winger / inside forward kind of player. We've got a lot of those already, so it's fairly clear that the plan is, if there is a bid that comes in for the likes of a Luis Sinisterra or Willie Gnonto, except we're not going to lose Gnonto at this point because it would look incredibly stupid unless it's for insane money, or maybe Crescencio Somerville, because I don't know how many minutes he's going to get this season. He seems to be a just in case if we lose one of those sort of players. Apparently, the issue in that conversation is that he and his club have an issue, rather than we have a problem with him, or we have an issue with that club. It seems to be the loyalty fee that Genk don't want to pay out, so he might want to stay there for another year or so just to make sure he gets paid everything that he's owed, which is sort of understandable. It's less understandable than Amiri's issue, which is that he's got a young family, his wife's about to have a kid, so of course I can understand him wanting to stay in his home country. It's all a little bit confusing at the moment. Apparently Leeds were convinced that neither deal was dead, with Amiri being on the bench against Mönchengladbach and Paintsil again being in positive conversations with Leeds United. But if we're going to get an attacker, we need to get one in fairly shortly just to get them nice and integrated and moving forward. One quick second. Oh dear, apparently a stream's frozen. Again, ping in the comments if things go wrong. I can't really solve them on my end at the moment unless I know that they're an issue. I'm just going to quickly jank between a couple of things in order to make it on breaks. There's a don't worry. Okay, we're working. However, there is brilliant. Thank you, Vion. Glad to hear it. And all okay now. In terms of attacking players, though, this is a weird one that we've got a writer at Last Word on Football that might be able to give me a little bit more information about. But Taylor Harwood-Bellis has been linked a little bit with Leeds United over the past days. Now, as far as I know, he tends to be more of an out-and-out striker than a winger, which is sort of confusing because we don't need another one of those. If we do get Taylor Harwood-Bellis, why have that many syllables in your name? That's just not fair. If we do get him in, I feel like that would definitely be a loan deal, just because something permanent would cost in the realm of £20 million and up. And if we don't get promoted, that would show a bonkers level of risk. Maybe if it was a sort of obligation to buy if we go up, but we've had that before with John Kevin Augustin, and I feel like we might want to never do that again. Ball playing centre back. Oh, yes, so he is. That's a weird one. He's in the wrong section. Or is he? Because this section is also the defender section. Jed Spence is also linked with Leeds United, which is a sort of interesting one. Again, can you guys see that fly? Because he keeps just sort of hovering here and it's really distracting. Jed Spence is weirdly a right back, which is what Leeds United do not need at the minute. It's incredibly confusing. Because we already have Luke Ayling, we have Sam Byram, we have Jamie Shackleton that can play with there, we have Cody Drameh that can play with there. Whereas on the left back position, there's Junior Firpo. And it's Junior Firpo. That's it. It's Junior Firpo. He's the only dedicated left back. We've got Leo Hjelde, who we will come back to a little bit later, who is primarily a centre back that plays at left back. We have Pascal Struijk, who's in the same position. We have Sam Byram, right back, that moved to left back, which really worked too well. It's all sort of chaos, and it really needs to be a little bit better. There needs to be a left back in. And Jed Spence isn't that, but who is that is Luke Thomas. Leeds United are rumoured to be looking at Luke Thomas from Leicester City on loan. That's where things get a little bit tricky. Leicester City are direct rivals to Leeds United for the Championship title this season. Hopefully Leeds United can push for the title. That would be very nice to see. But if we can't, then we'd need to improve our current state. And that means signing players like Luke Thomas from fairly good sides like Leicester City. And I can see them saying no. It's going to be a very, very difficult one to push. It'd need to be paying his wages plus a fee in order to make up for the risk. Although Luke Thomas hasn't played any minutes for the club yet this season. That could be a positive for Leeds United. It could say maybe he wants to move out. I think he's got something like 12 months left on his contract, which is really positive for us. However, Manchester United's hunt for a left-back is also an issue in this situation. They do have plenty of left-backs at Manchester United. There's Tyrell Malacia, there's Luke Shaw, but they're both injured, and they're apparently looking for someone else on loan in this window. Ryan Bertrand, also a championship player, was being considered by Ten Hag apparently, but so is Luke Thomas, and ideally we can get that done before they start causing problems. Maybe they shift Byram to the left permanently if you get Spence. It's a good idea, and it's what looks like it's sort of happening at the moment if we're unable to sign a left back. But ideally, something that we saw as a major issue through Bielsa and then through Marsh, and then weirdly under Sam Allardyce, where he played 6 at the back in our final game of the season, is that it doesn't balance up when you've got various players going in the wrong position. We've spent so long without a genuine good left back, I think arguably since Stuart Dallas played there, and he's been injured for 2 years, that what fans really want at the minute is someone that can just straight up play there, rather than he'll do a job. someone that will actually like be dedicated in that role rather than being forced into it because that's all we've got. However, that's not the only issue that we've got at the club at the moment. Central midfield is really interesting at Leeds United because we went into last season. I know I'm going back a little bit here, but it's a long extended story. Went into last season desperately needing a midfielder. We got Tyler Adams, that was good. We got Brendan Aronson, who turned out to not be a straight up midfielder. We got Weston McKennie, who seemingly had more burgers than first touches. That was mean, but it wasn't necessarily wrong. It didn't really work out, and all three of those players have left the club, in addition to Adam Forshaw leaving the club, and we've only got Ethan Ampadu in to play in that position. So there's been a lot of rotation, and there's been not much to deal with it, and that's where Glenn Kamara comes in. He's ironically for the name, Finnish midfielder at Rangers, and he's quite good. He's a sort of defensive machine. He's someone that will go into tackles for you. He's got, to put it in the classic football man kind of way, he's got the passion. I hated saying that so much. To sort of build into matches and make a real difference at Leeds United. We've apparently agreed a fee with him. I reported that on Last Word FC a while back. You can have a look for that because I don't know how to bring up a link at the moment. Am I able to comment? I am able to comment. Oh, that feels good. Be a second. Yeah, I reported that he agreed a fee with Leeds United. There's rumours that he has an agreement with the club in terms of a contract. It looks like it's just about getting everything finalised at the minute. Let's have a quick look and see if I can find this article. Piro Amiri. There we go. If I am just going to screen share this. Yeah, we reported that we were due to sign him. That's a little bit better. I'll take that. I'm just working through all the templates. Sorry if it's a bit of a weird one. We reported that we were due to sign him in the coming days. That hasn't quite happened yet. I reported that 6 days ago, but it's going to happen. Things take time in football, especially when we've got so much business to do. My sources said that we were set to sign him fairly soon. He's a very aggressive player. He's good in a tackle. And we won't have a problem signing him purely because, hello, Dave. How are you doing? And hello, Goals Edits. I don't know you, but I know Dave. He's from the 92 Mile Square Ball Walk, and he is a banging guy. Fantastic. Again, let me know if you've got any questions in the comments or suggestions or anything. MOT indeed. Personal terms seem to have been sorted with Glenn Kamara. We'll see if that works out. It should do. If it doesn't, I will be very, very surprised. Anyway, that's for later. Let's ignore that and go back to my stupid face. You've been sub for like a year now. I only started the channel 2 months ago, but nice try. Another deal that we reportedly have coming down the pipeline is Ayo Tanaka. He currently plays for Fortuna Dusseldorf. He's a Japanese midfielder who was quite impressive at the World Cup. He was a fundamental part of their ability to break up attacks and hit other sides on the transition, which really works for the way that Daniel Farke likes to play. From what we've seen so far in Daniel Farke's system, he doesn't like having the ball in central areas. He likes sort of receiving the ball, winning it in the midfield battle, and then transitioning it out wide to build a decent counter using that front line. That's why, for example, you'll have Joel Pirro dropping in, picking up the ball, and relaying it out to Sinistera, Nonto, Somerville, one of those players, in order to generate a wide attack that is very un-Jesse Marsh in a way that I quite like. A lot of our goals last week came from balls coming from wide positions towards the back post, for example, Nonto's, and the more we can do that, the better, to be honest with you. Ayo Tanaka could be a fundamental part of that. I don't know too much about his, for example, tackling stats. I'm just going to quickly double check all of that stuff because for some reason I scheduled this for first thing in the morning, which was a bad idea. Okay. Yeah, so his stats are reasonable at Dusseldorf. Last season, for example, he got 1 goal, he got 1 assist, which isn't fantastic, but then again, that's not his job. He's not there to do that. He's there to create opportunities for other people. More of a defensive midfielder, more of a sort of conduit in the middle of the pitch, sort of like Ampadu, sort of like Gray, a little bit of a middle ground. In an ideal world, Archie Gray keeps his starting spot because as many minutes as he can get, the better, because he's someone that can develop into a fantastic footballer. Another move that we are reportedly looking for, and I am again just going to bring up the stats because I think this one could be quite interesting, is a fairly aging midfielder that I didn't expect to be on our list, and it's Kenny McLean at Norwich. I believe he's played under Daniel Farke before. So that sort of makes sense. He already understands Farke ball, he understands the system. I hate when people just use the manager's name and then the word ball. It's very weird. So you've got to hope that he can do something good. Is that where I go? No. Eventually I'm going to work out all these templates. Sorry about that one. Again, he's not a player that is going to be scoring all of your goals. Non-penalty goals, he's got 0.03 per match. That's 1 goal every 30 matches. Non-penalty XG, he creates good opportunities. That tells me that he doesn't finish very well. But again, he's got a hell of a lot of attempted passes. His completion rate is awful, but then again, he's been playing in a Norwich side that looked like it was fairly naff last season. So in an ideal world, that changes under us. Progressive passes, again, that's what we're looking for to be up there in terms of the stats, because the more people are passing progressively, the more opportunities we're making, the more we can get our incredibly strong front line to score goals. He's also a fairly good defensive player, winning lots of aerial duels, decent amount of interceptions, decent amount of clearances. That's also something that could be fudged a little bit by Norwich being not very good last season, but we'll find out. Again, progressive carries is something that sort of surprises me as well. He's not the sort of player that you expect to be picking up the ball and dribbling with it and going forwards, and that's not really a thing that we'll need in Daniel Farke's system from him, but it's something that if we get, I'm not going to complain about too much. I am going to have a very, very quick look at some of the news. Someone has just reported that the Glenn Kamara saga is in the closing stages. Again, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, that's something that's been in the pipeline for a while. On Kenny McLean, there were no issues, negotiations ongoing, real promise of the deal. Okay, that was for Glenn Kamara. On Kenny McLean, apparently we offered them something like £4 million to try and sign him. Norwich said no. I'm assuming there isn't going to be much more conversation around that because there's going to be a lot more midfield targets that come up in the coming days. One of the best things about the late stages of the market is there will be moves that we didn't expect coming in the slightest that sort of spring out of nowhere because there's players that don't want to be at their clubs, there's clubs that want rid of their players, and that's a perfect opportunity for someone like us, Leeds United, who really need to do a lot of business in the closing days of the window. You get me and Leeds news confused, although it was another premiere, not a live. No, I'm sorry, this one's a live. I'm delving into lives a little bit in the next few days. I've got one planned that will cover particularly Leeds United stuff because that's what I'm sort of good and competent with. And I'll sort of combine that with the rest of the transfer news from around the world on Friday. It's going to be a fairly big stream. I think it'll be something like 4 or 5 hours, ideally. Hopefully it won't be exhausting. Hopefully I can keep it all interesting. Hopefully I can keep up this sort of energy, but who knows, I might do some snacks. What are my thoughts to Leeds United start of the season? I'm really sort of glad that you've asked that because that's something that I've got on my banner list. It's really good. Hold on, I'll find it. There we go. Leeds this season so far has been incredibly positive, I think. Okay, see you later, goals edits. Leeds United this season so far has been incredibly positive. They've been incredibly attacking, very, very fun to watch. And I've sort of enjoyed that from a fan's perspective whilst being terrified from a results perspective. One of the main issues that Leeds had under Marsh and at points Bielsa was that we do quite a lot in terms of getting a decent performance going, and then it wouldn't translate to points. That was one of the big issues towards the end of Jesse Marsh, though, matches that we should have won that we didn't, because it turns out there was a massive underlying fitness issue that sort of ruined the side. Sonny Perkins has gone on loan. Yeah, he's gone to Oxford City, I believe. We reported that on the website a while ago. I think it was Dale that might have done that. But again, I say names, you're not going to know the names. But Sonny Perkins has gone on loan. He's a weird one because I would have wanted to see him against Salford tonight, but I will get to that later. I'm going to do a little bit of a preview towards the end of the stream. But the other info throughout the season so far is that performing well, not getting results. Under Jesse Marsh, it turns out that that was a fitness issue because everyone was exhausted all the time. When Daniel Farke came in, everyone was like, it was shocking how tired we were all the time for no apparent reason. And with the bringing in of Joel Pirro, that started to translate to results because one of the main issues was it was an incredibly thin squad that didn't have enough players up top. For example, Patrick Bamford being injured all the time. Gelhardt's got a sort of history of being injured. Sonny Perkins is able to leave now we've got Joel Pirro in, but he wouldn't have been able to start consistently in the Championship. Mateo Joseph, I think, also has injury issues. He can play out wide as well, though. That's quite interesting. Ethan Ampadu was another sign of our massive lack of midfield talent. I'm going to go into that a little bit in the future because, again, I've got a Salford preview coming up. I'm going to try and film that as a video, currently delivering around Manchester and Salford, ironically. Thanks for the kind words. Honestly, mate, you completely deserve the kind words. You are a banging guy. Being around Salford, I'm guessing you're probably not going to be able to go to the match tonight because if I remember right, someone mentioned that it was really hard to get tickets for it. I'm not 100% sure again because I'm not someone that's ever gone to an away match because that's expensive and I've never been able to get a season ticket or anything, so I've not like built up the past membership sort of stuff. But yeah, we've had good enough performances aggressively in terms of in attack, which is the foundation for what you need to go through in the Championship because defences down here are not good. We have undoubtedly a reasonable Premier League attack. Sinistera, solid, great quality. Nonto, Italian international, what more do you need to say? Somerville, future Dutch international, I think. And that's just in the wing positions. And then you get to the centre forwards with Jorginho Rutter, who's started to sort of demonstrate his real skills, alongside Joel Pirro, who's a 20-goal-a-season striker who took 19 minutes to score a goal. Cheaper watching on the radio. Honestly, agreed. But let's not go into that one because I probably don't have Levi solicitors on side. My thoughts on Rutter, I was about to get into him, were he's got a hell of a lot of potential to grow. He's the sort of player that we got as a Victor Orta project that is a youth player that can get better and better and better as time goes on. And now we're into sort of the deep end of seeing what he can do. That goal against Ipswich, I'm just going to quickly bring it up because it was honestly incredible. It showed so much of his ability to sort of carry the ball and make a difference on his own, relying on what's around him. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the full screen layout. Right, there we go. Rutter is someone that is going to improve gradually over time because he's not someone that we've bought for the right now. But I'm just going to go slow motion with this because he does quite a lot of very good things here. 4 defenders around him. I think there's a 5th. Cuts inside this guy. The vision to do that in the first place is quite good. A lot of players with a lot less confidence would simply take the ball and knock it outside and play a pass backwards. The fact that Rutter has the confidence now to try that is incredible. Holding off his man, just a good idea in general. He's got the fundamentals right. Pushes past this player, which is very nice. And it's this next touch which I find ridiculously impressive. Holding off one man, player here, player here, player here. This next touch is what really makes the goal. And he intelligently scoops it through these two, away there. I don't know if you can hear that, but if so, sorry, that was slow-mo commentary doing its thing. Pushes on, and even under pressure, that finish is incredible. If I remember right, does it hit the far post? Yeah, it hits the far post. He's slotted that so nicely. And I think the issue with Rutter last season wasn't that he wasn't good enough. It was that, to be honest, he was in a side that wasn't performing around him. And I think he's a Bamford-style confidence player that needs a little bit of good ideas behind him and a little bit of past so he knows what he wants to do rather than just having to sort of commit to ideas without any confidence that they'll come off. And I think that's something that really applies throughout the entire squad at the minute. The entire side looks like a team that last season needed confidence, it needed fitness. Daniel Farke has come in and said, right, we're going to play with this system. It suits you a lot better. We're going to get the fitness up so we don't fall off at the end of matches. And it's worked, basically. Earlier in the season, we weren't quite getting the results we needed, but that's because the squad wasn't quite as deep as it should be. With more players in, Joe Rodon, for example, at centre-back will make a massive difference. Ethan Ampadu, we've already seen changes things. Pirro scored in his first 20 minutes, which is incredible. There's a lot of progress to be made there. I'm going to get into a Salford preview in a minute, but if anyone has any quick questions about what's going on and any of the transfer deals that I've talked about so far, or any deals that I've not talked about so far, that I might just be able to quickly search and talk through, because, again, I've been doing various bits of research for my writing work as well. So I'll know the background of some deals rather than all of the details, but I will be happy to talk them through if anyone has any quick questions before I get into a bit that's basically a short video in live stream form. I'll also answer questions in that bit, of course, but yeah, it'd be nice to be able to get into a flow, just chop that quite neatly into its own little preview section. But if not, that would be completely fine. I'm going to have another quick skim of if there's been any new news, because if there has, I really don't want to miss it whilst I am live, because that would look incredibly silly of me. No, not that I can see. That's fine. Back to comments. Thoughts on Ayling? Still got it going forward, but defending has been shocking. Muscat left, right back, and left back. The thing with Ayling is, I think, with his sort of flexibility and fluidity going into an attack, that's something that I think Daniel Farke really values, and you can see why when it comes to recruitment for a left back. I'm going to specifically talk Luke Thomas here, because I think he's a sort of fascinating player to look at in this situation. So Luke Thomas, I'm going to quickly duplicate that and then make a Luke Ayling one just so I can show you both of them. Right, so this one, the Luke Ayling scouting report. Quick look into various bits and bobs and stats and stuff. So last season, the defensive information is going to be a lot higher than you expect, because frankly we were dreadful last year and had a lot more defending to do. So he's going to have a high rate of tackles, high interceptions, high blocks, high clearances, high aerials one. That's completely normal. However, Luke Ayling's style as a right back is someone that bombs on really aggressively and tries to make a difference. That's why we've seen Archie Gray sort of, when Luke Ayling is pushing forwards, dropping in a little bit and sort of holding, what's the opposite of a half space? Holding more sort of defensive positions from midfield to cover the right-hand side off. However, when you look at Luke Thomas, he's got all this stuff. He's got the interceptions, he's got the blocks, he's got clearances. He doesn't have the attacking stats. He's not someone that takes a lot of shots. He takes a shot every 4 matches. Doesn't have any assists. He's got fairly low like XG information. Shot creating actions. That's okay. He creates some decent chances from time to time. Not all the time, but occasionally. And I think that's a sort of deliberate idea from Daniel Farke to get someone that... What you'll see in a lot of Premier League clubs at the moment is one wing back that's able to bomb on and make attacking moves happen, and on the opposite side you'll have someone who sits in and just lets it happen. Liverpool is the perfect example. You've got Trent Alexander-Arnold pushing onwards and Andrew Robertson that sort of sits. I think that's what we're looking at with a left-back signing. If we end up with Jed Spence instead of Luke Thomas, then maybe that won't happen. Maybe it'll be Byram that keeps pushing up the left-hand side. But Luke Thomas is as defensive as you can get with a modern fullback. Another question from Brandon Pridmore. Other than being optimistic for Leeds, who do you think are the favourites for the Championship? It's really hard to say, because despite being absolutely battered in the first half, Ipswich really showed a lot of character to get back into the match. At points, I thought we were lucky to beat them, but the attacking quality really shone through. I think they'll be up there towards the end of the season. I'm going to take a very quick look at what is the Championship table, because I've been so focused on various bits of news Hold on. Yeah, before I move on, Thomas's attacking stats might be slightly muted considering he was a backup in the Premier League too. That's true, but Luke Ayling didn't get that many minutes either himself because he spent a hell of a lot of time injured or behind Rasmus Christensen. That's per 90 information that I was getting from FBref, which means that the time he's on the pitch, is he attacking or defending, not is he attacking and defending throughout an entire season when he's not playing. But again, you know that because you're a smart boy and you write good football. That's not me being sassy to Brendan, by the way. He literally works with me. Other clubs that I think could push on for the title this season, there's quite a few. At the moment, there are 5 unbeaten sides at the top of the table, which is insane, to be honest. Leicester City are going to be up there at the end of the season because they've done what we've done, except they've actually received fees for their players and invested fairly wisely. Norwich City are up there. They're looking really good. Josh Sargent, for some reason, has turned into an actual footballer under their manager after Daniel Farke. Birmingham City also up there. That surprises me because they weren't that good last season. But then again, they've only scored 6 in 4 matches and won 3 of them. So that's a little bit confusing. Southampton you'd expect to be up there because they only just got relegated. And there is also Preston, and that one is baffling because they have a goal difference of 3 and they have won 3, and yet they're in 5th place. Ipswich I can see being contenders for the season as well. Other clubs, I do see us being up there towards the end of the season because although we've got a lot of building to do, it looks like we're actually doing it now rather than just sort of waiting for it to happen. Let's have a quick look. Okay, right. A little bit of news that affects the Luke Thomas deal. And this is going to be really difficult to edit into a video, but I'll do my best. It looks like the Luke Thomas deal is likely to be off in terms of his switch to Leeds United, partially because I have just received news that Timothy Castagna has moved to Fulham. This came out 13 minutes ago whilst I was on the stream, and Leicester City losing fullbacks is not what we need at the moment whilst we are trying to get one of their players. Forgotten what side Castagna plays on. Castagna plays on the right, Luke Thomas plays on the left, but at the same time, Luke Thomas is fairly flexible. He can play on either side. We just wouldn't need him at right back. With Castagna making the move to Fulham, it's going to be incredibly difficult to pry Jed Spence out of his current club. As much, not Jed Spence, Luke Thomas. Why are all these fullbacks the same person in my head? Yeah, it's our sort of position as well, where if we were to lose, for example, Sinistera, we wouldn't want to lose Nonto or Somerville. We'd want a replacement in. We wouldn't want to lose another one. So I can see Luke Thomas probably not making that move now. I think we'll hone in a little bit more on Jed Spence, and I think what Brendan said a little bit earlier, if I can find it, Sam Byram shifting more over to the left-hand side, I think that is a lot more likely now. We've seen that Castagna gone back to the Premier League. Anyway, I am going to hop back to the previous plan. Again, I will answer questions if anyone has them. If anyone has any news that they want me to talk about that I've not been able to see because I'm jumping between various screens at the moment, just let me know. But looking ahead to Salford. Big match, sort of. It's quite hard to get that hyped about the Carabao Cup, but having won the first match, we're on to the second. I'm going to quickly change the title of the stream to Leeds versus Salford preview. And all the biggest Leeds United transfer updates. There we go. Let's save those changes. The broadcast must be scheduled for the future. Why? I'm here now. I'm really glad that this is a sort of learning experience stream because Leeds United versus Salford preview. Save. That should change the title of the stream. If you could all let me know if that works, that would be absolutely incredible because I am not going to get informed of that. Where was I? Looking ahead to Salford. Yeah. Leeds United play against Salford in the Carabao Cup tonight, and I think it could be a very interesting clash. It's not one that's going to see a lot of first-team players involved. There are one or two. I've got a predicted lineup next to me right now. But what really happens in the match and the season ahead is going to come down to performances tonight. So, quick dive into the predicted lineup that I have. There we go. I think we're going to start with Caldalo in that. That one seems a little bit of a no-brainer to me. Caldalo is a good goalkeeper who hasn't seen much action because we've kept Illan Meslier. I don't think we expected to keep Illan Meslier when we signed him. I think that was a sort of accident that we stumbled into that worked out for the better, because now we have two good goalkeepers, although it could see Christopher Clausen leave. Across the back line, weirdly, I've gone for Cody Drame at right back. Despite a fairly dreadful performance at left back this weekend against Ipswich, it has worked. Thank you, Brendan. A fairly dreadful performance this weekend against Ipswich. That was over here. Now, Drame is known as a right back. He's got a little bit of flexibility. He can fluidly go from flank to flank, except evidently not. And I think his Leeds career could fully depend on how he does against Ipswich. 12 months left on his deal. If he doesn't perform against, not Ipswich, against Salford, if he doesn't perform tonight against Salford, it's going to be really, really hard to justify keeping him around, I think. Salford should be a fairly easy task for Leeds, and that's why I think we'll send out the second string 11. Centre-back, Charlie Cresswell, of course, probably needs minutes. He's been pushed out by Joe Rodon. I think he's going to be relatively third-choice centre-back for the club this season. He's a very, very impressive player who, again, I hate to say it, but he's that sort of passion guy, that hardened championship player that just throws himself into situations. And he's going to be a very, very good player at Leeds United. It's just about getting those minutes in his legs, and whilst Rodon is fit, I think the cup is the best way to do that. Pascal Struijk at left centre-back probably needs to happen because we don't have too much depth. If we had Liam Cooper, then I feel like it would be whoever wasn't in the league starting player from Struijk and Cooper, but we don't have Liam Cooper back yet, so it's going to have to be Pascal Struijk. Carabao Cup should be about saving various players' legs and trying out new players, but we don't have that many centre-backs at the moment. If we're feeling incredibly bold, it could be a Diego Montero kind of thing, but he has never played for Leeds United's senior team, so I can't see that happening. Leo Kjelder at left-back also sort of just makes sense, considering that he's the only sort of even a little bit of a left-back that is fit at the moment. The only other player that can play there that isn't Cody Drama, who we saw couldn't play there very well, is Pascal Struijk, who again is busy at centre-back, or Jamie Shackleton, who played there for a little bit against Ipswich, but then we would need another midfielder, and frankly, we don't have the squad depth to do that at the minute. So I will pop those back. As I mentioned, Jamie Shackleton plays here. He will be the sort of energetic one of the two in midfield. He'll be the one that does a hell of a lot of running. He'll be the box-to-box player between the two, with the other being Darko JB. Darko JB did not impress too much against Shrewsbury. He had a very, very bad match where he just lost control of the midfield. We lost the ball a lot, and I think that's where a lot of our problems came in. A lot of this, I say, having not seen too much of the match, but it's reports from various people, including the Square Ball, Phil Hay, Graham Smith. JB didn't have a very good match. Like Drama, this is one where he can sort of redeem himself and push himself into contention for the future. He's a player that has a fairly long contract at Leeds. We'll look at developing for the extended future, but sort of needs to prove that he's got that basic foundation first. Out on the wings, we see Crescencio Somerville. He's not one of our starting wingers at the minute, which is completely understandable because Sinistero, Willie Nonto, both very, very, very good footballers, so it's really hard to sort of displace them. He is still incredible. He's probably our third choice winger for if any of those are injured or need a rest. However, in terms of being injured or needing a rest, Willie Nonto doesn't need a rest. Little guy went on strike for a while, didn't he? So I feel like he sort of has to play today, either to get match fitness up or just because he sort of owes us one. I can see him doing really well against Salford too. He seems to be someone that performs quite well in the Cups because remember what he did against Cardiff, that Di Canio-esque finish. Hopefully he can keep that up. The front two, I think, is interesting because they could take on a Pirro-Rutter dynamic. without having quite the same proven quality. Both Joe Gelhardt and Sam Greenwood have been increasingly training to play in midfield or as a number 10, with Greenwood playing for extended periods under Jesse Marsh, basically here. Not as a number 10, but as a sort of box-to-box number 8 kind of guy. It's not a position that I like to see him in, but that's not a position he's going to be in this system. He's going to be with Gelhardt, with one of the two at all times dropping in to help out, and the other sort of peeling off the centre-back, pushing forwards. It's interesting to see what we'll do tonight, because I think there's a lot of work that can be done in order to achieve decent enough results. We don't need to do too much hard work, I say again, because it is Salford and they shouldn't be too difficult to beat. But if it comes to it, we've always got a lot of talent on the bench. I have no doubt that Pirro, Rutter, Sinistera will all be on the bench and ready to bring on support in case we have any issues. In terms of defensively on the bench, there's not going to be too much that we can offer. We'll have, of course, Joe Rodon, because he's not injured that I know of. If he is injured, that could be a pretty big problem, and I could look incredibly daft. But let's hope he isn't. Or something I saw a minute ago that looked at the entire squad and who was available. I will have a quick look. Yeah, there's a player that I think could make a real difference if he does come on, because he's proven himself at sort of League One level and could continue to do so against these opponents, and I think we'll push on and do really well in the Championship, but we'll find out. Sorry, bit of a hiccup. And that is Lewis Bate. Lewis Bate in League One was a very, very, very strong performer. He proved himself as someone that can not only win a ball, but he was really good at making opportunities for the rest of the players around him and even finishing chances. I think if he were to play tonight, we would also have an incredible chance of winning. Other players that might be worth keeping an eye out for. I think Chris Moore at centre-back is someone that is very, very good and has a lot of potential to grow and could do with minutes coming up. Ampadu off the bench is another one that could be very good. Aside from that, we've still got a relatively thin squad. Maybe Christopher Clarkson starts in net instead of Carl Darlow, but you can't be sure. It's a cup match. Things happen. Ultimately, what do I think is going to happen in the match against Salford? I think we are probably going to win it. I think after the match against Shrewsbury, Daniel Farke isn't going to want to take any more risks and potentially lose matches because of stupid mistakes. I think we're going to come out swinging. I think we're going to score 1 or 2 goals early, maybe try and sit on it to not waste energy. Again, it's not a deep squad. We could do without the injuries. Might be tricky to hold on to, but at least this one is one that I think we can watch, because I believe the match is televised. And yeah, I am going to keep the stream going for a few minutes in case anyone has any final quick questions, and then I'm going to head off, because I've just realised I've not had any breakfast. So if anyone has any questions, just ping them in now. I'm going to have one more look for a little bit of news in case I've missed anything. Yeah, Fabrizio Romano has just confirmed Castagna going to Fulham. So that could be not ideal. Agreed a contract till the summer of 2027 after the medical was passed on Monday. You don't think Dan James will feature at all? As far as I know, Dan James is still injured. Dan James falls into that category of Somerville, in which I don't think he's a starting winger for us if everyone's fit. I think he's someone that comes off the bench towards the end when they've already got exhausted defenders and really starts to sort of attack incredibly hard and fast. But I can't remember what his injury was. But it was fairly short term, as far as I know. That's why he's not been in the squad recently. Let's quickly check Dan James news. And a fresh injury blow. Yeah, he was a fresh injury doubt ahead of Ipswich. He had an injury in his adductor, which I believe is probably not worth risking for a match against Salford. He might be on the bench. I don't think he'll start, because that would be an incredible risk to take just a few days after he was entirely kept out of the squad. That might be my sort of Bielsa-esque mind of wait until someone is completely fit to play them, but I think it would be a bad idea to do. I've just realised I've not had my light on all stream, and I quite like my lighting, but it's fine. Yeah, Dan James is going to be a big player for us in the Championship this season for the time that he is fit. When he is not fit, there could be slightly bigger issues because we can't get him on the pitch. He's someone that is, at the very least, a really good squad depth player for us at the moment if he's not someone that's going to keep attacking. Not keep attacking, keep playing. Because look at who's around him. He's not really a first-team kind of guy. Before I see any more comments, I'm going to very quickly take a look at some more AO Tanaka news. Quick update that I've just seen from Build. A bid of £2.6 million has been made for Tanaka. Apparently Dusseldorf want a little bit more money, but then again, I'm sure we won't be too scared of paying that much because £2.6 million is not too much to spend on a midfielder, considering the amounts that we were considering for Amiri, for Paintsil. That's £15 million of deals that haven't happened. I'm sure we can find a little bit behind the sofa. I don't see anything other than that, aside from Leeds making a concrete offer for Jed Spence. Anyway, I'm going to leave it another minute or so, just see if there's any more comments that come in. If not, that is completely fine, because again, breakfast. But yeah, I think the stream's been all right. If anyone thinks there have been issues with the stream, just let me know. I will happily fix them for next time. Bit of background music, maybe. I've got a nice little playlist of stuff I used for when I was doing videos on the other platform, because it's all royalty-free stuff. It's quite hard to find. You would not believe how difficult it is to find useful music that you can actually play on YouTube. I'm going to take a quick skim at this. Okay. Ben Jacobs in a Twitter space last night confirmed the move for Jed Spence had led to a concrete offer, so that's good news. Anyway, I am going to leave that there. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Please leave a like. It's much appreciated. Subscribe if you are new here. Also, massively appreciated. Ping something in the comments if you like, because that gets the stream more recommended, apparently. And yeah, hope you enjoyed. I will see you later.